But this is not the end of the story. We already talked about two other conferences, right? One is the Tehran conference. Secondly, there was the Yalta conference, right? So we have one more conference, the last conference we're going to talk about. But we need to see the changes between the Yalta conference and that Potsdam, the last conference first. Firstly, in May 1945, 3 months after Yalta conference, Allied troops reached Berlin. Hitler commits suicide, Germany surrendered, the war in Europe was won. And then Stalin's army were occupying most of Eastern Europe. The reason why he was able to expand his power is obvious. It's because the arrangements in Tehran conference and in the Yalta conference, right? Firstly, the Soviet troops had liberated countries after country in the Eastern Europe. You can see all the orange parts. They were the communist countries. They have helped these countries to build their democratic government according to the Yalta conference. So instead of withdrawing his troops, that means after they liberate and kick all the Nazi troops out, they didn't really withdraw their troops, but they left their troops there in these countries. So by July, Stalin's troops effectively controlled the Baltic states: Finland, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania. And Stalin insists that his control of Eastern Europe was a defensive measure. That means it's not about their aggression, they're just protecting themselves, right? Against possible future attack, just like the US. I think in the first or second video, we already talked about the time after the Pearl Harbor incident, US actually start to expand their air and navy bases in all around the world, right? So they say because US, they already start to build their defensive system. That is the reason why we also need our system, just like what they did. So Stalin's army were occupying most of Eastern Europe. Then American had a new president, that is Truman. But more importantly, one important thing that ended the Second World War is the atomic bombs. On 16 July 1945, the Americans successfully tested an atomic bomb in the USA. You can see what the US president, the Truman, is doing here. Truman, he informed Stalin about it at the start of the conference. So my question is why he need to inform Stalin it at first, before the conference, not during the conference, not after the conference, not even during when they successfully test the atomic bomb. It's because he want to show off, right? He want to tell USSR that we are that strong now. We have atomic bomb. We can destroy any country that we want. So watch your words in the conference. Like a threat to Stalin. So this is a Potsdam conference. You can see we have Churchill on the left side and then Stalin on the right side. In the middle is Truman. It was in July, from July to August. That is the end of the Second World War, the months that end the Second World War, right? And the Potsdam, and in the middle, because Clement Attlee was elected as the Prime Minister of Britain, that's why he joined the second part of the conference. So for the Potsdam conference, it can be the most important conference because most of the arrangements were decided and finalized in the Potsdam conference. For example, the Council of Foreign Ministers was established to prepare the peace settlement and draft the peace treaties. The defeated countries were allowed to participate in the preparation of the peace treaties. So you can see their efforts in preventing another Paris Peace Conference or Treaty of Versailles, right? Now they let the defeated countries to participate in the preparation of the treaties. Germany's military industry will be dismantled in order that it might not wage war again. But its light industry and agriculture will be recovered and rebuilt for economic recovery. So they are helping Germany as the defeated country to reconstruct their economy, only to disarm them, but not like what they did in the First World War, right? To greatly weaken them, not only militarily, but also politically and economically. Next, the US, Britain, and USSR could get compensation from their own occupation zone in Germany. So now things become really practical. In the First World War, they asked for a huge amount of reparations, right? That is 6.6 billion pounds. That is not really practical. It can be a part of the reason why the formation of Hitler and further lead to the Second World War, right? So now they want to prevent this. That is the reason why they admit that these winning powers, they were able to get some materials, get some labor force from Germany from their own occupation zones, because Germany was divided into 4 parts, and also Berlin was divided into 4 parts. So you can get the materials from your occupation zone from now on. And Germany had to cede to Poland a large part of territory in the east. This is proposed by Stalin in the Yalta Conference, remember? East Prussia was to be partitioned by Poland and the USSR. After surrender, Japan had to be occupied by the Allies until the democratic government was set up. Actually, it was US who helped Japan to rebuild the country. In addition, it had to be demilitarized. So you can see the focus has changed a little now. At the old time, they want to weaken the country economically, militarily, politically, but now most of the focus was on the military. So they don't want to weaken them. Like economically, they still want them to run as a self-efficient country, right? But compared to disagreement, actually, they also have a lot of disagreement in the Potsdam Conference. That is also why Potsdam Conference can shadow the Cold War. Firstly, Germany. Actually, Stalin want to cripple Germany completely, just like the First World War, want to weaken them entirely, right? Because they are afraid that Germany, they will like reconstruct again and become a great threat to the USSR. But Truman, he didn't want to repeat the mistake in the Treaty of Versailles. I think this is like a more practical way. Everyone don't want a World War III, right? And then reparations. 20 million Russians had died in the war. I just mentioned actually the casualties of Russia was more than all other countries combined, right? So it's a huge amount of casualties, and Soviet Union had been devastated. Stalin won compensations from Germany. Truman, however, was once again determined not to repeat the mistake. So they are just trying to prevent from like the history repeat itself, right? And for Eastern Europe, at Yalta won agreements from the Allies that he could set up pro-Soviet government in Eastern Europe. He said if the Slav people are united, no one will dare move a finger against them. Truman became very unhappy and about Russian intentions and soon adopted a get-tough attitude towards Stalin. So you can see their discussion in Eastern Europe actually changed both of their attitude. You can see their faces from this picture compares to this one. It's a huge change. This is the open ceremony of the Potsdam Conference. This is the time when they finish their discussion. You can see their unhappy face directly from the picture, right? So Truman became very unhappy about Russian, about their intentions, and soon adopted a get-tough attitude towards Stalin. Well, on the other side, of course, for Stalin, he didn't really afraid of it because now they are one of the superpowers, right? So Stalin, he also gradually tightened his control in the Eastern Europe, just did what he wants. He didn't really care about what Truman is thinking about him, right? So in 1947, he set up the Cominform. So in next video, we're going to talk about how Truman get tough and how Stalin tightened his control and what is Cominform. So see you in next video.